the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
It was like for Evan, who went through the Bears game 2 years ago in the monsoon, and what that game was to this year now with the Browns winning with PJ Walker and a whole lot of defense and not a whole lot of offense from the San Francisco 49ers. So, Evan, your 2-minute hot take rant on what happened to the San Francisco 49ers yesterday afternoon was what?
I mean, listen, as a 49ers fan, I have been watching, for the last, at least under the Kyle Shanahan tenure, right? We've had some of the best defenses of the last 2 decades. I would think that's fair to say. We have at any given point been just a very dominant team. And I'm still so used to at least once a year losing to a team that you have no business winning or losing to. I don't care if the Browns have the best defense in the NFL. I don't care. Like, the Niners have one of the best defenses in the NFL, right? I don't care that Jim Schwartz, I just don't care. I don't care about Myles Garrett. I don't care. It's PJ Tucker. Not even, was it PJ Tucker?
PJ Walker. PJ Tucker.
PJ Walker. I know, but it's like how many times a week do you say PJ Walker? It's PJ Tucker's the only person I could think of. But that's my point, though, right? Isn't it? Like, I can't even remember the name of the Browns quarterback. It's the guy from the XFL. There's no reason why the 49ers should have lost that game. And everyone, like, in my DMs, not my DMs, but my group chats on text messaging, like my friends I'm talking to, they're like, oh, the Browns have a really good defense. So what? Well, the 49ers lost Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. They still had Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. Which, by the way, is there anything more Kyle Shanahan than to go 1 week from George Kittle having 3 touchdowns to not even having 3 catches? It's the most, like, there's no reason on the planet, if Christian McCaffrey is out of the game and if Deebo Samuel is out of the game, that you're not force feeding the ball to George. George Kittle is not just some guy that's, really fast, or, he's like, he's a good blocker. George Kittle, I would say his number one most important quality is that he breaks tackles, that he makes plays, that he is clutch. You could get him the ball in literally at the line of scrimmage, and I would have rather you have done that than pass the ball to Ray McLeod or pass the ball to Juan Jennings, who, by the way, played admirably. Your boy had a good catch there at the end. There's no reason that it should come down to a kick, which, by the way, it came down to a kick who was kicked by a kicker that you drafted with a top 100 pick. And, it was fun to watch him at the beginning of the season, and it was fun to watch him up until yesterday when he missed 2 kicks to make you lose to a bad quarterback. So I don't know, man. A lot of people will just like brush it off, right? Every year they lose one bad game. Every year that it's a trap game, whatever. I hate that. I'm a 49ers fan that has watched the Eagles get a first round bye. I'm a 49ers fan that has watched not getting that extra game, meaning not being able to play the team that you want to play, So I don't know. I have so many thoughts, so many emotions, but overall, just wildly disappointed. It is so. It was so bad.
Is it over for Brock Purdy, y'all?
No, it's not over, but like.
It turns out all you need to do to beat Brock Purdy is take away 2-yard dump passes to Christian McCaffrey and make it drizzle.
It was more than that. He has been barely missing these plays all year long, but the players have been making the plays, right? Brandon Ayuk has been catching the ball, right? Deebo's catching the ball. Guess who else was catching the ball? George Kittle, who you didn't throw to because you had to block because Kyle Shanahan's running scheme is so important. Oh God, Kyle Shanahan's running scheme. What are we going to do if George Kittle can't block for Kyle Shanahan's running scheme? That did nothing. Oh, I got to run the ball 7 times before I throw a play action because they'll never, if I don't run the ball 7 times before the play action, how will they'll, it's just like, why do we have to synthesize every Kyle Shanahan bad game or loss to all these like big brain ideas? If you have 2 of your best offensive skill players go down, how is it not immediately get the ball to Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle? I don't care. Get the ball to them. It doesn't have to be.
Ayuk did have a lot of targets. It's just there were bad throws by Purdy that weren't caught.
Right. I understand that. But like Kittle's my main issue though, because to me, everything I've watched Kittle with for the last 5 years is he will catch things in clutch moments where he's not supposed to catch the ball. And then not only that, he'll break 3 tackles and get a first down. So I just can't understand.
So do you think he's hurt? Or is it just a scheme thing?
No, I literally think it was a little bit of rain, and he obviously they were having really good pressure, and he just made bad throws.
Well, the thing about the game, and this is more about the Browns than it is the 49ers. The reason George Kittle wasn't targeted more in the passing game is because the Browns made them waste extra players in the passing game to stay in the block. Like the biggest thing that should be coming from this game is that the Browns kind of whooped the Niners' ass up front. Like that was where the game was won and lost. Jordan Elliott played a fantastic game up front. The run game was non-existent, like Evan said, but that's really where you kind of get into a bind if you're the 49ers. The run game wasn't working. Christian McCaffrey got hurt. Deebo Samuel got hurt. And then you basically fall into the trap that the Browns can set. They are so good against the run. They're so aggressive coming downhill that now they can pin their ears back, and you have Myles Garrett running at you. Myles Garrett had a phenomenal day, by the way. Did not have a sack, but pretty much like
hell out of them, man.
He won like almost every rep against Trent Williams, albeit Trent did get hurt early in the game. Yeah. But outside of that, like Grant Delpit, fantastic game. Jeremiah Uwusu-Koramoah, fantastic game. This was less about the Niners to me than it was about the Browns, who made a statement about like in a loaded AFC, they can still like fight for a playoff spot because they have a top 5 defense in the league this year.
That's what bothers me.
I would say
it's
not even just top 5; it's the best in the league right now. Like you look at EPA per play wise, they are almost a full point better than the second place team, which is Baltimore. They're minus 0.249 in EPA per play. Baltimore's a minus 0.161. So they are. Jim Schwartz has these boys buzzing right
Let's
now.
be realistic too. They also just did that to the 49ers, which look at the stats, EPA especially, the most efficient offense in the NFL. And after what they just did to the 49ers defense, I mean, the Browns deserve all the credit in the world. But that's my big issue. The 49ers pass rush, Nick Bosa's not nobody. Obviously, I don't think Nick Bosa is starting off to this season as fast as he should be. Maybe, maybe the contract stuff was the issue. But like Randy Gregory had a sack and like 3 QB pressures yesterday. Like they're getting support, but it wasn't amounting to anything. And again, not to like, I don't want to like beat a dead horse, and I don't want to talk about this over and over and over again, but like how many rushing attempts does Christian McCaffrey need to get before you are worried about his physical health? When you traded for Christian McCaffrey, plenty of people said this is a bad trade, and not one of them said this is a bad trade because of Christian McCaffrey's talent. It was because of his durability, his injury history. Ever since then, Kyle has treated Christian McCaffrey like my ADHD ass treats a favorite new song, and it just plays that song on repeat over and over and over. Christian McCaffrey has been slightly injured this year, and still Kyle would immediately call a play to Christian McCaffrey afterwards. The fact that he hasn't gotten injured yet is a miracle. And, he looks like he'll be okay, but like Jordan Mason has looked great every time he's touched the ball. He averaged over 5 yards a carry for the 5, minimal attempts he got yesterday. We knew this as 49ers fans immediately. We're like, you could split McCaffrey and Mason. It won't be that big of a drop-off, and it'll be worth keeping McCaffrey fresh. But Kyle Shanahan has refused to do that. In fact, I would argue that George Kittle doesn't even see the ball anymore because he's like, no, I can have Christian McCaffrey do that. And I will, I respect that. Like, I was like, after Christian McCaffrey took that big hit last week against the Cowboys, and I was like, let him rest. Immediately after I tweeted that, he went back in and he scored a touchdown. So I recognize that, he is that good, but like, Christian McCaffrey was not in the game at the end of the game. You were driving down the field, had to kick a field goal, had more time to get another playoff, by the way, and still chose to kick a field goal. If Christian McCaffrey was healthy, what are we doing? Are we able to maybe score a touchdown there? These are the things that drive me insane about Kyle Shanahan. He'll be the best coach in the absolute world to where people are at the altar just bowing and praying to Kyle Shanahan, and then he'll follow it up with some of the dumbest shit I have to watch as a fan. It's infuriating.
I wish I complained about Kyle Shanahan instead of Matt Canada. That'd be nice.
Well, I think the thing about the Niners is like all of that is true, and you still had a chance to win the game at the end.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Of course, like spinning it kind of on the optimistic side, excuse me. They'll probably still win 14 games. I don't think this is a major indictment of, this is what happened. This is the game plan to beat the 49ers, because you're not going to face Myles Garrett every week. You're not going to face a talented DB room like the Browns had. The Browns were very comfortable playing like man coverage on the Niners for most of the game, and that's because they've invested so much into their DBs in offseason. They paid Juan Thornhill. They drafted Denzel Ward and paid Denzel Ward very handsomely. Greg Newsome, first-round pick. He plays in the slot. Martin Emerson, I believe, was a day 2 pick. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but they've invested a lot of money into those guys, and Jim Schwartz kind of was just like, the night and day change from Joe Woods to Jim Schwartz in the aggression of this defense has really turned this defense up. It's the same players outside of like changes along the defensive line, but the aggression that they play with has changed so much, and it's more fitting of a team with as good of athletes as the Browns have on defense. Like let them go be dudes. Like, stop trying to play zone and zone match and shit. Man.
That was old school defense, right? They said, just go beat your guy. And they did beat the guy. So I don't think go ahead.
PJ Walker led teams in the past calendar year have beaten Tom Brady and the Bucs and now the undefeated 49ers. So tip of the cap to old
Tom
PJ
Brady
Walker.
And the Bucs doesn't really move the needle for me. Maybe.
I mean, it's Tom Brady, bro.
How many teams beat Tom Brady and the Bucs that season?
Well, that's fine. I'm just saying, the Panthers were awful last year and nobody really expected them to win that.
I think PJ Walker is an athletic, talented quarterback who's limited. But my point is this: I don't think it is like an end all be all by all means. But as a fan who has watched them lose 2 NFC championships and a Super Bowl, these are the games where you're like, you can't make these mistakes. You have to be perfect in these moments because that's what sets you up to win a Super Bowl. You need to be lucky. You need to be perfect. You have to do all of those things to get there. So I just want to see the Niners win a Super Bowl.
Well, I think it's going to be okay. And I think I like JP's point where it's like, in the grand scheme, are we remembering this game in January or are they like 13-4?
It doesn't mean a thing. Like, every team is going to lose at some point this season. 49ers were never going to go 17-0. They ran into the best defense in football. They just happened to lose.
I remember the 49ers game that they beat the Rams and didn't get the pick to land Myles Garrett. I remember the 49ers game where they beat the Cardinals or lost to the Cardinals, last year, and then ended up not getting, the position. I do. These one little, that's my point. As a 49ers fan, these one-off games are ruining my life.
It could be worse. You could outgain a team at home by like 400 yards and lose.
Are we talking about the Falcons?
JP's so excited. JP, what do you want to say about the Falcons right now? Because I am at the point where I just, there was so much bad coaching, and like Dez was bad, but this was one of the worst Arthur Smith coach games to this point. And I've never come this close to like, I don't think it's him. I don't think he's the guy. I've never been this close to being like, I'm not sure Artie should be the head coach going into next year.
Nothing sums up this game more than Desmond Ritter's second interception in the red zone, where he just throws up an absolute duck 5 yards short of Drake London, and Arthur Smith is just like this.